The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're just going to give colleagues maybe another additional minute to sign in, and we'll get started. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Johanna. I'm from the UN Innovation Network. And on behalf of the entire Build Back Better Challenge team, you can see on the top of your screen, I have the privilege to welcome you to this call today. And we are currently at almost 200 people joining. So really exciting to see so many of you here. And we are very excited that you are eager to be part of the Build Back Better Challenge. In our webinar today, we are going to briefly introduce you to the Build Back Better Challenge. We're going to tell you why we're running it, who we are. We're also going to tell you how it will work, and most importantly, how you can get involved in it. So a bunch of content coming up, and we also have a lot of time for question and answers at the end. So looking forward to hearing from you throughout this conversation. Because you will be hearing a lot from us, we want to actually start by hearing something from you and also give you the chance to familiarize yourself with the platform. Not everyone will be familiar with GoToWebinar, but you will see that there is a chat function and there's also a question and answer function. And if you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to put these in the questions and answer box, and we'll get to them in the second half of the webinar. But as for now, we're actually really curious to hear who's on the line and who's joining us. And we'd like to start with a very quick chatterfall exercise. And for those of you who are not familiar with it yet, a chatterfall is an exercise where you just type in an answer to a question. And then when I press send, everyone presses at the same time, and we'll see a bunch of answers just popping down there. And this morning, we'd like to invite you to tell us where you are joining us from. So please go to the chat function, type where you're joining us from, and then in a couple of seconds, I'm going to press send, and hopefully we're going to see a bunch of locations popping up there. Select all entire audience, and then press where you are joining us from. And if you are ready, please press send everyone now. Send to everyone. Let's see where colleagues are joining us from. I see New York. I see Switzerland. I see Germany. Bonn, Vienna, fantastic. Upper West Side. Okay. Let's see, so this is the chat function. Q&A is above that. Right, let us get started. And because this challenge is a very collaborative process, as you can see, all the people up top of the screen have been working on this. We want to make sure that you hear from all of us why we've come together to build this challenge and to design it and run it with you. And I'm first going to hand over to my colleague, Kat from DCO, to just share a little bit of background about why we're running this challenge. Kat.
Great. Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, please go ahead.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. This is Kat Kwai from the UN Development Coordination Office, where I work as an innovation officer. I'm really glad to join you this morning, this afternoon, this evening. I'm calling you from my kitchen, and you might hear some chopping and water noises in the back. And this is kind of the reality that we all work in these days, right? We're having to do, we're being asked to deliver just the same or sometimes more, but in our homes, from our kitchens, with our kids or family or significant others running around. And this is the kind of situation that we all find ourselves in these days. We're being asked to stand up to address a very unusual situation, a rapidly changing situation where we might be frequently asked to work outside of our comfort zone or our TORs or whatever you like, outside of normal, in an abnormal situation, working from home. And with new conditions placed on us, like working around kids and family, and having to do everything virtually without the benefit of interacting with our colleagues in the normal way. So that's kind of, I think, a common experience. I think that's what brings us all to this webinar today to discuss. Next slide, please. And that's also what brought us together as the group behind the Build Back Better challenge, to try to create a way that we can leverage one of the UN's top asset, which is its people, its staff, to really look at solutions, to identify both what are the key challenges that are blocking or barriers to our effectiveness in this new normal, and also what could be some solutions. So looking at our collective creativity, oops, let's see, there's another hazard of working at home, our pet families, and looking at how we can collectively address this through creativity and our own energy and enthusiasm for finding solutions. And I'll hand the mic back now for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Kat. On the next slide, you will see that this challenge which we launched is all about collaboration. And we've been saying we a couple of times, and I just wanted to take one moment to introduce you to the colleagues who are behind it and to the organizations behind it. The current partners of the Build Back Better challenge, which has naturally formed itself around common interests and the desire to do something different and use this difficult time as an opportunity. So the current partners are the UNDCO, the Development Coordination Office. We have the UN Office of ICT. We also have partnered with New Work, and New Work, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a staff-driven initiative that aims at changing workplace culture at the UN Secretariat. It's particularly big in Geneva and New York, and the team there is doing excellent work. We've also partnered with Unlock, and that is the Lab for Organizational Change and Knowledge hosted at the UNSSC. We are joined by partners from the staff unions, both in field as well as in headquarters location, Young UN, a global network of colleagues from all across the UN system dedicated to driving change in the UN, and then the UN Innovation Network, which is an informal network of innovators from all across the UN. So you can see this is a really collaborative effort, and we are welcoming new partners who want to help us drive this, because this is not something we can do alone. This is something we really want to drive together. And in the next hour, we're going to hear from representatives from all these organizations who have partnered to make the challenge come to life. And I'm first of all going to hand over to Simon from Young UN, who's going to tell us a little bit about where has this come from? What is the origin of the challenge, and what has informed the challenge? Simon, you need to unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Johanna. This is Simon. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Very good. So the focus areas for the Build Back Better challenge were identified through a UN-wide pulse check. In this survey, more than 4,600 colleagues from across the UN system shared challenges and highlighted opportunity areas. You might have seen the invite to the survey in your inbox, and maybe many of you who are connected here today also filled it. This survey has provided rich insights on many different areas. For example, how people and organizations manage to adjust to a digital setup, how their workload or work-life balance were affected, or what consequences the COVID pandemic had on aspects such as innovation and openness to change. Next slide, please. So over the last weeks, the results of this survey have been analyzed and compiled. You can see here a sneak preview of these results. We are currently finalizing this summary, and it will be shared in the next days. Most importantly, and as already mentioned, this pulse check survey helped to identify the focus areas for the Build Back Better challenge. Moreover, these areas were also informed from insights from other surveys, questionnaires, and dialogues with staff. For example, the pulse check from the New York Staff Union that has been carried out in the UN Secretariat, or the survey that was done by the Field Staff Union. So without further ado, let me hand over to Ruth, who will present you now the challenge areas.
Thanks, Simon. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here, and we're excited. I'm excited, at least, for this. I think we all are. Yeah, my name's Ruth, and I'm with the Young UN Network based in Geneva. So as Simon said, the pulse check informed the challenge areas of the Build Back Better challenge. And there's three broad areas. So the first one is around integrating agile mindsets and practices. Next slide. So the statement is how can we do that in the UN system? And this is in the context of, you know, we all know the hierarchical kind of bureaucratic structures we exist in, and sometimes these are not the most responsive in times of crisis, as some has been seen to some extent in this situation. So this arose as an important area. The second area is enhancing knowledge sharing and collaboration, and that one again. There's such a wealth of information and data and expertise in the UN system that sometimes we don't pool that as effectively as we might want to. And so we're looking for ideas and also existing initiatives for all of these actually, but including on the knowledge sharing and collaboration. And then the third area is around support to employees in times of change and crises. So we've obviously seen, you know, both the very positive sides of supporting employees, but also some of the less positive sides. And it can be a highly stressful time, as Kat said, juggling so many different issues. So this also touches on kind of, you know, social isolation and how to deal with change and uncertainty ahead. So I'll pass back to Johanna.
Thank you, Ruth. And indeed, these are the three challenge areas that came out loud and clear, both from the pulse check that Simon mentioned, as well as from other surveys that were run by, for example, the staff unions. And we would like to now take a moment and hear from you if these challenges resonate. So we're going to launch a quick poll, and we'd like to know from you if any of these challenge areas stands out specifically. Can you say, yes, I've experienced this in my organization, or I wish there had been better knowledge sharing, I wish we had been more agile, I wish there had been more support. Pick the one that is closest to your heart and let us know. And I believe Liliana is launching the poll. So please select an option. It's in the little window on the right-hand side.
There's a small issue. I clicked, my mouse wasn't working, and now it closed it again. Is there a way to reopen it?
I think so. Oh, maybe not.
Yeah, I can't reopen it, unfortunately.
Well, oh no, it is open again.
Oh, good.
So everyone, please tell us. Oh no, we're reviewing the results. Okay, fine. So that didn't work. Technology not on our side, but that's fine. You have had a chance to think about which areas affected you most. So hopefully these kind of resonate, and hopefully you'll be excited to thinking about creative solutions to help improve in that space. So hiding the results again, and maybe we can go back to the slides, because now that we know what the challenge areas are, it'd be actually good to learn a little bit more about how this challenge will run. And I believe, Daphne, you're going to tell us what the process is going to be and how people can get involved.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. If you don't mind, thank you for that. Yeah, so very warm welcome. I'm Daphne. I'm based here in New York. I'm here with my colleague Sabine from the Staff College, and we both part of the UN Lab Organizational Change and Knowledge. So yeah, so how will this all work? So first of all, this is a really important email to take note of. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we switched the slides around. Sorry about that. So first of all, just for you to understand, this challenge will happen in 4 different stages. And of course, you know, there's a lot more detail behind each one of these stages, and you'll be able to find the detail online, and we will be in touch with you over these next three months or so. But first of all, the first stage is around crowdsourcing ideas, right? So this is where you need to, over the next, hopefully by the end of this month, so over the next 3 to 4 weeks, get your creative thinking hats on and log on to the site and start thinking about what kind of ideas you would like to submit. And we encourage you also to ask for support from colleagues, and also see if others might be interested to share some similar ideas that you can work on together. The next stage then is around shortlisting the ideas. Now, there will be a long list and a short list, and the maybe just very quickly, we'll go into it a little bit more detail in a moment, but there's a challenge team that will keep the long list, and then we have an advisory board that will select the short list, and I'll talk about the selection criteria in a moment. And those ideas that don't go into the shortlist will certainly be harvested and go into an ideas bank. Then the third stage is about refining those ideas, and so we'll provide some support around that. And then finally, there will be a dragon den, so where this is basically a process where we will select the ideas, and there will be some rewards after that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is what I started off by saying. There is a site that, please take note of that. It's the UN Build Back Better site, where you can both submit your ideas for co-creation, look for partners to connect with, and maybe even create an idea together. And of course, submit your final project. Then next slide, please. Now here, how this will work in stage 1 is, at the beginning, there will be some light touch provided by the challenge team and some other innovators. Again, what I mentioned earlier, try to get your ideas in by the end of the month to be able, so that we can be able to support you during this ideation process. We also hoping to have more mentors signed on. We already have quite a number of mentors that have signed on, and I don't know, Liliana, or somebody, if you could post the link to the mentor platform, that'd be helpful. So just for you to see if you're interested to act as a mentor. The other thing that the team will provide is 2 things. One, a team formation workshop, and the second piece is around a human-centered design workshop. So both of these workshops will help you both team up with others and start co-creating some ideas and provide a framing for that. And the human-centered design workshop will just provide you some different lenses, maybe, to look through how you may want to approach your idea, and a little bit of knowledge and background on how to do that. And then the next slide, please. Thank you. Now, stage 2, how we will select the shortlisted ideas is basically 7 different things. Number 1, there will be a vote that all of you can cast, and then the criteria, number 2 through 7, is one around what is the problem, like how clear is the problem being defined in your submission of the idea, and how relevant is that within the UN system. Secondly, what is the impact that you hope to achieve? You know, how many entities will benefit from it? How drastically may you be able to improve the issue that you're trying to tackle? Then we also look for the novelty, of course. You know, a lot of times similar ideas might already exist in the system, so how novel or how much value added is your idea bringing? And to what extent does the solution use new approaches and technologies? I mean, specific technology is obviously very critical today in our new world. fourth selection point is around feasibility, of course. You know, how feasible is your solution, and is there evidence that your idea is actually going to work? And then what is the scalability? What is the potential for scaling this solution that you bring forward? And can it actually be sustained within the organization? That's obviously very critical. So we really look at practicality here. And then the last item that we'll look at is the actual team. So, you know, we can't do this by ourselves. You know, the people that you look at here on the screen, this is all volunteered time by everybody, and that's the same thing that you will need, and it will obviously require quite a bit of work and commitment from your side. So as much as you the stronger your team is, the more chances your ideas are of actually being realized. And those are the different criteria, and I will hand it over to Beth, I believe. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Beth Manya-Watts. I work for the UN Secretariat in the area of business transformation, and I am particularly involved in the New Work initiative with other colleagues here. So we're very happy to talk to you about the different stages. I'm going to deal with stage 3. So once we've got to the shortlisted groups, that's when we will be doing some real focus work on advancing the project and helping the different teams create their pitches for the eventual event, which we'll talk about in a minute. So during this stage, the teams will be working with teams to refine the ideas and to validate. There'll be coaching, there'll be mentoring as is needed, and there'll be some work on how to pitch for the kind of event that we're going to be having. And then during this time, ideas that did not get shortlisted can still be looking at how to develop, and we'll still be available to support those, and that goes beyond the challenge itself. Next slide, please. And moving into stage 4, the grand finale. So some of you will know Dragon's Den, some of you will know it as Shark Tank. Essentially, it's a fun but innovative way of looking at the different ideas and the solutions, and then having basically an event where we will have senior level colleagues who will be a panel, and they will be basically the dragons or the sharks, or however you would like to call them, and they will be hearing from the shortlisted groups about their ideas, and they will then basically look at which ideas resonate the most, and they will come up with a winner or winners, and there will also be a people's vote on the challenges, on the ideas. So during this session, we expect it to be informative, interactive, and fun. And we know that this already has had some great impact. And I'm going to pass over to Daniela and Thomas in UNOG Geneva, who are going to tell us about how they made this work in Geneva previously as part of New Work, and the kind of thing that we can expect. So passing over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniela Würz and I work at the UN in Geneva, and with my colleagues on the New Work initiative. And the Dragon's Den has really been central to the New Work initiative. In UN Geneva, we actually realized about 2 years ago that in order to remain effective and relevant, we really needed to change our organizational culture to one that values innovation, fosters collaboration, and provides also learning opportunities to all the staff, and furthermore empowers staff through adoption of agile mindsets. And this is how New Work started, and it's a staff-driven culture change initiative. And we've organized countless events and briefings over the last 2 years, really under the New Work framework. But I have to say the one that stood out and really had a major impact on the culture change was the Dragon's Den initiative. And I'll now ask my colleague Thomas, here with us too, to tell us more about how we did the Dragon's Den.
Thank you, Daniela, and hi to everyone. Greetings from tropical Geneva. It's very hot here. In my day job, I'm Thomas Neufing. I'm the Chief of Learning here in my day job, but also with Daniela and many others involved in the New Work initiative. Very briefly, our experience with the Dragon's Den. Let me take you back to the end of 2017, when the Secretariat launched its first staff engagement survey. And of course, the findings also here in Geneva, where somewhat interesting, not surprising. The topic of innovation came up, and staff felt, that the organization is not innovative enough. There's not a culture of innovation that would make all these ideas that are actually around blossom and come to fruition. So our director general at the time took it very seriously, and he wanted to engage in a dialogue with staff directly. So we had 4 sessions with staff and him. And it was good, but somewhat a bit disappointing because we did not get lots of good ideas, but we knew there were actually a lot more good, creative, innovative ideas around. And he challenged us, to also come up with a more innovative format to solicit, to harvest, this really wealth of creative, innovative ideas that are surely among our staff. So we came up with this idea of the Dragon's Den. Beth said already, some call it the Shark's Tank in Germany. It's the Lion's Cave. It's this TV program where a pitch is made, and it's fun, it's competitive. So we thought that could be a nice challenge, competition. So we launched the challenge and received, to our surprise, 16 proposals. Which was a lot more than we had anticipated. And then out of those 16, we shortlisted 5. And those 5 shortlisted teams, they also got coaching, training to work on their pitch. And then we had a grand finale with our dragons that were very senior colleagues from UNOC, but also 1 dragon from the outside. So we had 4 of them. And we had about 250 to 300 colleagues attending the event. The winner was actually a team of UNOC joining forces with Young UN on the Connector project. And I'm very pleased, actually, we saw yesterday, a few days ago, the prototype, the first prototype of this. So it actually yielded a concrete result, and it's quite spectacular. There was also a people's choice in the room as well, so there were that also added, to a lot of buzz, and of course the entire organization talked about it. And that's my last point, and already Daniela mentioned it. New work is about culture change. We all know culture change takes time. It's never done overnight. But we saw that this event, before and after the Dragon's Den at UNOC, really marked a major shift, because before there was a lot of skepticism. Is it really possible, if I have a good idea in this hierarchical organization, will it actually ever see the light of the day? And after the Dragon's Den, I think literally everybody knows, if you have a good idea and you team up with people, even across departments, actually there's a very good chance that if it's a good proposal, that this proposal can actually come to fruition. So much about that positive experience, and I hand over back to our moderator.
Thank you, Thomas. And thanks to everyone for coming together and being part of this challenge. I find it so inspiring to see all of us from all parts of the UN coming to bring this to the rest of the colleagues. So big thanks from that. We have a lot of questions coming in already, and we'll go to them in a moment's time. And we encourage you to ask questions. Please go to the Q&A box that is part of the GoToWebinar platform. We're already seeing some suggestions on wording for challenges come in, actually. Thanks for that. We have some compliments for our gorgeous mentors. They're not just gorgeous, they're also very skilled, so thanks for that. And a shout out to Thomas from UN Habitat for being the most recent mentor who signed up, I believe, as we were in this call. So Thomas, thank you, leading by example. We're hoping to see many more mentors join the platform later. So there will be mentorship support, but there will be also other types of support that we are offering you as part of this challenge. And to hear more about that, I am going to hand over to Christoph.
Thank you, Hannah. And I think there was still Liliana with the dialogue series in between.
Seems like it.
Yeah,
Improvising, Liliana.
Yeah, no problem. Just as part of this challenge as well, there's an added initiative, and it's a series of dialogues. Many people, won't have the time to volunteer a whole lot of time to put into putting together a project and then implementing that project afterwards, or being part of a global team. But we still want your voices, and we still want to hear from you. Also, some people may need to discuss some sensitive issues. As mentioned earlier at the start, we're dealing with working at home and families and caring for children, caring for elderly, having high-risk family members, you know, pets that need our attention. And so a lot of these, you know, issues is not necessarily going to lead to a solution, but we want to hear about it, and we want to hear what your experience has been. And you know, for all these different areas, including, you know, disabled colleagues, and local conditions at different duty stations. You know, our experience in New York has been very different from our experience, from the experience in Geneva and Vienna. And in the field, of course, it's a whole different set of issues. So this series of dialogues will be run by each of the different entities and different locations in close consultation with the staff unions and other bodies, relevant bodies, so working with HLCM and CED. And we're hoping that this content will feed up into other discussions related to digital UN, related to revising of the competency framework, future of work. So we want to be able to contribute to all of these discussions that are happening at management level. So now turning over to Christoph.
Thank you, Liliana. Yeah, I'm Christoph. I'm with UNIN, the UN Innovation Network. And I will also see some of you again next week in the HCD workshop. And then also I will be working with some of the shortlisted ideas to help you to prepare for the Dragon's Den then in September. So some of you will be seasoned innovators and you have your toolkits ready to get going. But some of you are probably also new to how to develop an actual innovation idea. And so we would like to share these toolkits with you. First and foremost is the UN Innovation Toolkit. This is a toolkit that has been specifically developed for the UN. And it includes 21 tools. Some of them are targeted towards how to develop an actual impact idea. And some of them are actually also developed for how to create an innovative department or organization or organizational structure within the UN, which is probably also quite relevant for this challenge. So please have a look at the UN Innovation Toolkit. And then if you would like to have a look at another toolkit, it is really specifically targeted at how to develop an impact project or an impact initiative. It's the DIY or Development Impact and You Toolkit, and we will also share this link with you. Thirdly, and you've probably heard a lot about human-centered design, and we also have the workshop next week to actually dive into this together with you. But some of the creators of this human-centered design methodology, they're called IDEO, also have compiled some resources on HCD. So please have a look at that. And lastly, if you can't get enough of toolboxes, there's so many beautiful toolboxes out there. There's the Toolbox, which is an awesome list of curated toolboxes related to innovation and how to drive change. So if you have a bit of extra time, please have a look at this. And don't be afraid of all these different tools and toolboxes that you hear about. If you're a shortlisted idea, we will actually work together with you on what methodologies and tools to apply. Next slide, please. So, and you're probably already very excited and ready to get going to submit your ideas related to an agile mindset or how to enhance knowledge sharing or how to support our employees in the times of change. But here up front, 6 very short tips to make sure that you're moving in the right direction. First of all, whatever you want to submit to this challenge, make sure that you think from the user's perspective. Try to understand what are the user needs and how is your solution actually helping to fix their problem, right? It's very important. And then also linked to that, just be aware that you probably don't really know the solution. You have a great idea, you have a sense in what direction you want to move, but at the same time, your users know if your solution is going to work. So make sure that you learn from your users by listening to their needs, what your solution should be. And what's very important here is test your ideas quickly. You know, don't actually have an idea and then try to work it out in great detail just by yourself, but get out there as quickly as you can, and even without having to program complicated apps or building more complicated solutions. Just use pen and paper or use Microsoft Teams or use any tools that you have available to actually test your idea quickly. Next one is think from the perspective of universal users. Probably you are inspired by your direct environment to come up with a solution on how to build back better after COVID. But at the same time, here we're trying to find and identify solutions that can actually scale throughout the UN system, right? So try to think from the perspective also from universal users and how the solution could be used across other entities. Lastly, the more you listen to users, you hear a lot of problems and needs, and you probably want to add a feature to your solution for every need and problem that you hear. But please keep it simple. You know, try to do one or two things and try to do them very, very well, because then we can scale it rather than trying to do a lot of things less well. And lastly, this is collaborative. We've heard about it before. Don't be a lonesome hero. Don't try to work out your idea alone, but please reach out. Use the platform that we have prepared for you. We can all engage on this platform and interact and refine and build on top of each other's ideas. We can form teams around similar ideas. And really, by joining our forces across different entities, we will be able to actually work on the best possible ideas to build back better after COVID-19. Thank you, Johanna. Handing back over to you.
Thank you so much, Christoph, for these great tips on how to get started and resources. And as we mentioned previously, we're not going to leave you alone. So if you're interested in human-centered design, there will be a whole session on this next week where we provide you a much deeper dive that can help you with your projects. So tune in for that. We'll make the invitation available to everyone who signed up for the challenge. So here's another incentive to go and register on Unite Ideas to be part of it all and benefit from this additional coaching. One of the most common questions that I always get is if the slides and the recording will be shared. And I'm very happy to say that, yes, they will be shared. We'll be distributing them to everyone who signed up for this webinar. So you can go back, take a look, be inspired by the cool design, and get ready to submit your idea. And on that note, we're now going to take a couple of the questions coming in. And I'd like to first take a question from a colleague who was wondering if this challenge is open to UN colleagues only, or if it is also open to external partners or projects working in partnership with external colleagues. And Ruth, maybe you can share some thoughts on that?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So yeah, the answer to that is basically it's open to anyone across the whole UN system, regardless of organization, regardless of contract type, consultants, interns, staff, anything. But not from people who are external to the UN and directly submitting projects. So it's UN system colleagues of any kind.
Thank you very much, Ruth. And another question, maybe Ruth, sticking with you, is if this is related, or if this challenge is only available to existing projects, or if it's also for new ideas. Is there a differentiation? Do we welcome both? What is the deal?
Yes. So basically we have, you can submit either, and when you submit on the platform, you have to choose if it's an existing project or if it's a new idea. And so people can also build on existing ideas, existing projects. For example, in one organization, people can say, hey, we want to think about this in a new context and collaborate that way, or can build up a new idea. If a couple of people have the same one, you can work together, and we have the team forming workshop also to help make those connections between people who might have similar ideas or similar existing projects. So it's both.
Wonderful. So if you have an idea, if you have an existing project, if you would just like to share some input, this challenge is really open for everyone. So we encourage you to sign up on the website. We're going to post the link again in the queue and in the chat box, so you can register there. I saw a question in the chat relating to, or it was a suggestion actually, around providing a platform where colleagues can discuss, can refine, and jointly ideate. Is this something that the Unite Ideas platform will offer? So can we provide this forum? And I'm looking at my extensive panel. I don't know who wants to take this question. Simon, you're smiling. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm just smiling because I'm busy multitasking, giving out the questions here at the same time. So I'm happy for anybody else to jump in.
Right. Any volunteers? Is it possible to, on the platform? Oh, I know the answer. I can also tell the answer. The Unite Ideas platform is very much possible to do that, and benefit of being the moderator. And on this platform, anyone can submit an idea, and anyone who's interested in the idea or has one that is similar can share comments, can ask to be part of this team to jointly drive the challenge forward. So it's very much a co-creation platform, and we're really hoping that colleagues will make use of it to jointly ideate and take ideas forward. We have actually another quick little poll prepared for you that I wanted to take now before we go to further questions coming in. And if someone could launch the poll, let's see if technology works on this side. We were wondering if you have any ideas or projects that you think you would like to submit as part of the challenge. Please tell us, and we'll be sharing the results in a couple of seconds. So giving you 10 more seconds. Is it something, do you have something in mind? Is there a project that you or your team has already been working on that might fit to one of these challenge areas? Tell us now. 3, 2, 1, and let's close the poll and see what colleagues were saying. Thank you to whoever activated that in the back end. And I think we have 34% yes. So we have 330 people on this call. 34% of you is a great number. So there's 100 people who have ideas or projects. Very much looking forward to seeing those. And the 66 who don't yet have a project, join us anyway, be inspired by the human-centered design workshops, or browse the platform and see what kind of projects are there, and if any of them interest you, and if you would like to be part of that. Right, thank you for that. Now we're going to another question. And do you have a suggestion for me, Simon?
Well, while you are looking at suggestions, Simon, I just wanted to say, so our network of Unlock has had so many different great ideas come in. And you know, part of the work that we do is also bring people together. And I could see so many of those ideas actually being used in this format, where you can post some of those ideas, put them out there, and see who else might work on something that is similar to what you're currently working on. So just to reinforce the comment that was made earlier on, to you know, it doesn't need to be something completely new. It can be something that you're already working on and want to get input on from others, and then also use that as a way to, you know, to spread the wealth of knowledge that you've already created within your own teams. Over. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that, Daphne. I have a couple of questions coming in related to the timeline of the challenge. So what are the different phases? How long can people submit ideas? And what are the different stages? Anyone like to take that one? Beth?
Sure, I can take this if that's helpful.
Please
Okay,
go
so the different stages, as we explained earlier, there are 4 stages, and that's over the next 2 to 3 months timeline in total. And we don't have the specific dates to go over today, because we want to see how also the challenge progresses, and then some of the stages may shift in terms of timelines because of that. But the first stage, and it's possible that there may have been another date appearing somewhere, but just to clarify, the first stage, which is actually getting your idea into the platform and actually getting us to the point where we're able to see what kind of ideas are there, is it's open right now. So from today, and in the first instance, it will be open until the 31st of July. And we will see, you know, sometimes with these challenges, many of us have experiences of them before. Sometimes they are extended by a week or so, but the idea at the moment is the first phase is to the end of July. And following that, each of the other phases has a week, a couple of weeks, and it will be communicated as we move forward in terms of where we're going to. Very roughly, we expect to reach the sort of the culmination and the event probably in September, or let's say the fall in Q3, and we will be communicating regularly in terms of those dates as they firm up. But it's to keep things agile and open so that we can make this live as it's a living challenge.
Great.
And sorry, just one more. We'll I think you said earlier, Joanna, that we'll be sharing the slides, and so the different stages and the kind of details within those are much more elaborated in the slides.
Thank you very much. Yes. So
yeah, and just to add also that information will also, all these links will be available on the platform itself. And I think there was a question about the data strategy. So it's not directly linked to the data strategy, but like the innovation toolkit, that is another resource. And the data strategy itself, has different areas. It's looking at people and culture, governance, the actual technology, and of course partnerships. And so all of these things are very much interlinked, and we would highly encourage those of you who are submitting projects to familiarize yourself with the strategy, the data strategy, with the innovation toolkit, and all of these other resources in order to try to align your own projects. And we can help connect you if you have questions. We can help connect you and answer those questions. The dialogue series, there was a question on that. We don't have a link for that yet. We're finalizing the details on that, and so that will be launched separately. It's a related initiative, but it's not launching today. So those, and because those are very localized, the announcements for those events will be at each location and each entity.
And maybe I could just add one more thing. This is Beth. Just in terms of the linkages that Liliana was speaking to, and I think there was a question, a kind of a devil's advocate question in the chat. What's the difference about this initiative compared to many others? And shouldn't we first implement what we haven't implemented before trying to come up with new things? I think, as Liliana explained it, at the very foundation of this challenge and the fact that all of these different groups are working together on it, it's an attempt to try to, as much as possible, join the dots. And that's something that we all appreciate is needed in looking at how we can make the different things that are already out there. There are many things already going on. How can we leverage those, and how can we make things link together? So yes, I can very well see that by being involved in this and coming up with new ideas, that does contribute to the implementation of the data strategy. It is a part of implementing new ways of working. It's part of implementing many different projects and initiatives that are already taking place and will continue to. So that's one of the key themes at the bottom of all of this is trying to join the dots. And why now? Well, we've never been in such a situation as we are, given the situation with COVID. And so this is really the right moment to try to bring all of these things together. At least that's the hope. Somebody else may have additional things to add on that.
thank you very much, Beth and Liliana, for chiming in here. There are a bunch of questions coming in, and I'd first of all like to take a quick moment to give a big shout out to our colleagues from OICT who provided the Unite Ideas platform. It's a really fantastic platform, and it has been really great working with the team who put this together. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for that. We really, really appreciate the collaboration there. A couple of questions coming in specifically around the challenge, and we've had two around, is there a limit of ideas per person or group? So can you have groups of 10 people? Is there a limit on that? And also on whether an individual can submit multiple ideas. Ruth, is that a question for you maybe?
Yeah, sure. So basically, go for it. Limitless. If you want to submit multiple ideas, that's brilliant. And in terms of group, I don't think we have a limit on group size. I mean, there would obviously be some, to take the project forward, there's kind of an optimum, size of group, often for kind of more of a self-organizing approach, not to get too big. But we don't have any strict limits. So be creative, put out some ideas, and yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for that. A quick comment to say that this challenge is a UN-wide challenge. So everyone in the UN system is very much invited to be part of it. If for some reason you didn't get the invitations or something, that is not because we're not trying to work with you. That is because our networks, our dirty little fingers get into so many places, but probably not all. So please, if you feel like you weren't involved, drop us a line. We're very happy to add you to the distribution list and make sure that your organization can be involved as well. This really is a very collaborative effort. Good ideas need a lot of things to take fruition. One of them often being resources. And we have a question coming in related to funding. And the colleague is wondering, is there any funding available for the implementation of the projects? Liliana, I was wondering if I could give that question to you, please, and maybe talking about funding as well as other support that successful projects can expect to get from us.
Yes, thank you very much. So of course, partnerships is very critical, and that's something that's been identified as critical both for innovation and for the data strategy. And in this as well, and in the development sector, they've also been looking much more at partnerships, not just with other agencies and the civil society, but also with the private sector. And this was also identified in the digital cooperation strategy. So we're looking at that. We're looking at getting some funding, and there goes my garbage truck. We're looking to get some funding. We have some already coming in. We don't have a total amount yet. There's also, of course, the resources of the workshops and support for the teams and coaching and mentoring. You know, partnering with the staff college, and we're also looking at partnering with the Digital Solutions Center. You know, for implementing of actual digital solutions, whereas other solutions that may be culture related, we could funnel through other areas, particularly through new work. So we are, you know, preparing a package of resources that will be available to the teams. And as part of the final ceremony, we will also announce the amount that each team will get.
Thank you very much, Liliana. And speaking with my innovation hat on, funding is important, but it is definitely not the most important thing to take an idea to life. If you just look at all the people nodding back at you from the screen now, we got this far without actually, you know, any funding / very little. So time and dedication, and most importantly, support from senior management are critical to driving innovation. And we are very happy to bring that to you as part of this challenge. And I want to make sure that you don't think we're afraid to take difficult questions. And there's one coming in from a user who's saying that he or she has seen a lot of projects and initiatives coming in over the years on better work culture and more transparency and better collaboration. But the user is saying that not many of these were ever implemented and didn't always lead to positive change or any change. So the colleague is wondering, how will this initiative be different, and how will we ensure that what we are trying to put out there will actually be implemented? Now, that is a tough question. Sabina, can I give it to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a fair question. Now, what we've seen is a variety of very different experiences. We've seen radical change in some teams and really struggle in other teams. But what we found when things are not implemented, it's very often the translation from a big, good idea into, and what does that mean for us in our team? So what we want to encourage you is actually take leadership at your level. You know, if there is, you know, the slogan out for more agility, and you wonder, yeah, what does that mean? Start having a conversation with your team, with your community of practice. How could we have more agility? And come back with concrete proposals. It won't solve everything for everybody. You know, sometimes you might have tried that, and then there is an invitation to change your strategy or focus on another challenge. Our experience has been, when you do go back with concrete proposals on how to make something real for your team at your level of work, there is a lot more openness. So it's up to us, staff at all levels, to say, what do these lofty concepts mean? How can we bring them to life? Who can we team up with? Liliana, you also had some thoughts on that. You want to comment?
Okay. Yes, I think so. It's it's always difficult. You say just one more project and just another project, but I think this situation has changed so much, and each of these networks and groups has been around for some time, and has accomplished some really good things. And now we're all coming together to change things. And I think what's really critical too is even at the most senior level, we are seeing support for this and support for this type of work, but not in a sense of controlling it or telling us how to do it, but rather giving us the space to do it and letting us drive it. And that I think is quite incredible when we think about the bureaucracy and the hierarchy. And it's something that we just want to bring to a wider level and really scale up and mainstream within the organization, is that kind of thinking and mentality. A lot of projects in the past and change management fails, and I'm sure Daphne and Sabina can say a lot more about change management than me, but a lot of times these things fail because you don't really change the culture. You change the people, you move people around, you change structure, you change the processes, but you're not really changing the culture. And culture change takes time. So as I said, a lot of these groups have been doing things over time, have already been, sort of building up that momentum. And now with the pandemic, it gives us an extra push and momentum to really drive that change through and to really embed it within the organization.
Thank you, Liliana. And I think we might have time for one last question. And it's actually a very good and very practical one. Thomas, giving you a heads up, I think I might be passing this question to you. And the colleague is wondering here, how can we manage to participate and at the same time cover our core responsibilities at work? So we're effectively asking people to find special time, magic time. What is your experience? What would you recommend, or what would you answer to this colleague?
Well, and I have now 25 years in the system, I'm really an old hat, and I'm a manager too. And of course, if a colleague comes to me with a good idea and needs to also sell it to me as well, of course, there's a certain amount of work that is expected by everybody to be done. But I think it's incumbent on everybody who comes up with an idea to also persuade and convince the supervisor, that this can be done, but also maybe that even more that there's something in it for the supervisor, him or herself too. So I think, I think there is a much better readiness among managers in the entire UN system now. I think we all feel things are changing, and also management is changing, is improving. It is not becoming perfect overnight. But I think it's also sometimes lacking that people would like to do an initiative aside, but don't invest enough time in communicating with the supervisor. And I think if there's sufficient time invested in that, usually it works. But I think overall the organization tries to develop and provide an environment, that is more conducive to this. And I think that's why in new work in Geneva, we have in 2 years changed the culture pretty much. Where all these things now are possible, and to be honest, 5 years ago it was quite a different situation. So I think it is improving, but at the same time, but also now we hope, of course, that we get a lot of proposals in this Build Back Better challenge. And of course, whoever needs some maybe advice how to talk to a difficult supervisor, I'm also available for free coaching.
There we go. That's a great offer to end this one. Very much. Thank you very much, Thomas. And while we realize that there are a lot of questions still coming in, we are unfortunately out of time, and we want to be respectful to your time as well as the time of our presenters here. We encourage you to go to the Unite Ideas website and register there, put ideas in there. It's also a way for us to engage and keep the conversation going around some of these questions that are still unanswered. And we really hope to see you there submitting new ideas. You have us as well as all the mentors to draw on, and we are very much committed to helping make this a success. Each one of us has already put in countless hours, and we are so excited to now be live with you. So encouraging you to get over there. And the next time we will see each other in person will be for our Human-Centered Design workshop next week, Tuesday, with Christoph. Very much looking forward to that. Christoph, no pressure. And I just want to say from my side, really a big thank you to the entire team. It's such a pleasure working with you, and I feel we are slowly changing the way the UN works. Fantastic to be part of this collaborative effort. So a big thank you to all of you, and an even bigger thank you to all of our participants. We are so excited to work with you over the coming weeks. So thank you from me and from the entire team, and see you on the platform.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.